We have Noah and the animals bobbing along in their big boat in the ark. And we have a rainbow that arches all its colorful glory, suggesting a happy ending to the storm when it passed. In that most famous American musical, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Dorothy Gale, played by Judy Garland, dreams of a magical place far away, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. There's a land that I dreamed of once in a lullaby. Someday we'll wish upon a star and wake up where you know how it goes, where troubles melt like lemon drops. Don't we from time to time yearn for that kind of carefree happiness where all is well in our world, colorful and bright? In a lesser-known musical, Finian's Rainbow, Fred Astaire tells the homesick Petula Clark, "Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow it over the meadow and stream. Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow the fellow who follows a dream." And you know, we all know there's a leprechaun and a pot of gold at the end of every rainbow, isn't there? Well, in the text from Genesis that Marilyn read for us this morning, there is all that, I suppose, but the rainbow also has something more. After the storm, after that cosmic deluge and great flood is past, God says to Noah and to the animals, to the birds and to all the creeping things on the ground, God says, "Be fruitful and multiply. Bring forth abundantly on the earth and multiply in it." And then God says, "As for me, behold, I am establishing my covenant with you and with your descendants after you and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle," that is the domesticated animals, much as the ones we have here with our heifer project. "The birds, the cattle, every beast of the earth that is with you, as many as came out of the ark. I establish my covenant with you that never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood. And this is the sign of the covenant that I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for all future generations. I have set my bow in the clouds. And when I bring a cloud over the earth and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember the everlasting covenant between me and you and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth." Yes, this familiar Bible story reminds us that animals share with humanity the fate of life on earth. Ask yourself, does not our human activity impact profoundly the lives of our fellow creatures? Are they not a blessing to us? Not only as pets and companion animals, but as workhorses like that water buffalo, that tractor, and yes, even as food. I like to think that animals have a spirituality of their own from which human beings can learn. Patty and I have been long fans of Cesar Millan, National Geographic's channel's dog whisperer, who reminds us that dogs in particular have a mentality of their own, which must be respected by the pack leader before we start to make them into surrogate babies or family members. As you all know, having a pet in the house, often for 10, maybe 20 years, builds strong bonds of mutual affection, without which our own lives and our families would be much poorer. In this week's Christian Century magazine, Melissa Florer-Bixler writes about sparrows, swallows, and us. She writes that since Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount says, "Look at the birds of the air," she decided to spend a week giving attention to birds because Jesus thinks that's something we should do with our time. In her article, she points out that in the Middle Ages, people constructed what were called bestiaries or bestiaries, books. Christians at that time assumed there were lessons embedded in the natural world, and that in the lives of animals we can discover truth about who God is. that God is somehow revealing God's self through the things that swim and fly, through those things that creep and crawl. There are thousands of these manuscripts and their accompanying pictures in which each beast reveals a moral or spiritual lesson. Her article made me think about Aesop's fables, those ancient stories of clever foxes and foolish dogs, right? The ant and the grasshopper, the tortoise and the hare. Pliny the Elder, in writing about swallows, points to the gentle parity of mother birds who distribute equitably to their chirping offspring, and the bird's swift and swerving flight. Last week, Patty and I watched 4 fledgling robins in a nest in our backyard tree. In this tender, attentive regard, it works itself out in one of the Psalms, Psalm 84, where we read, "Even the sparrow finds a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young at your altars, O Lord of hosts." Melissa Flora Bixler concludes her article by saying, in God's life, all creatures have weight. They cannot help eliciting God's attention. God cannot but be drawn back to them. The authors of Genesis are forthright in saying that God's covenant, that is God's promise, God's blessing, includes the animals, all flesh that is on the earth. That first, basic, overarching relationship with our holy Creator God, which is what the rainbow banner signifies. That promise, that presence is not just for you and for your children and for your grandchildren after you, but that is for every living creature that is with you. The birds, the domestic animals, and every animal of earth. Now that's in the Bible, friends, Genesis 9, verse 10. So if anybody's in those more fundamental churches tell you, well, you don't believe in the souls of animals and stuff, say, wait a minute, it's in the Bible. Maybe that'll make a difference. When we scheduled this Sunday for Heifer International Fair, I really wasn't thinking about the Bible. I was thinking about all those animals that Claire talked about. I was thinking about the gifts of livestock that have been distributed for more than 70 years now for thousands of families around the world who struggle daily for reliable sources of food and income. Heifer International's mission is to end world hunger and poverty through environmentally sound farming so that people in more than 25 countries can become self-reliant. It's an excellent way, I think, to remember and honor Noah. Now, we quickly think about his ark full of animals, but we may have forgotten that according to Genesis 9, verse 20, Noah was the first tiller of the soil. In other words, he was a farmer. Today's bulletin insert that you have says that Noah was a righteous man. He was blameless among the people of his time. And when the flood was imminent, Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. He built the ark, which is simply a big box, to shelter the family and 2 of all living creatures. Safe in the ark, Noah, his family, and the animals weathered 40 days and nights of rain. After the flood, a rainbow, symbolizing God's promise to never again flood the earth, stretched across the sky. Just as God kept Noah and his family safe from the depths of the flood, Heifer's ark will help keep communities safe from the depths of poverty. Every family who receives livestock agree to pass on 1 or more of its animal's offspring to another neighbor who is in need. And the family also passes on new skills in growing crops and caring for the environment. And so I say thank you in advance for supporting Heifer this morning. In preparation for today's service, I thought about those animals in the ark. All the wild ones like on our banner, the pink elephant. Anybody tell you that pink elephants don't exist? We got one right here. And the 2 giraffes. And the domestic ones like that white rooster and the yellow hen. Heifer also offers hives of bees and fingerlings of fish, as we heard about this morning. Now, bees and fish are probably not counted among those 2x2s inside of Noah's big boat. But as Claire Gerber mentioned to the children, Heifer International includes water buffalo, and there's exotic llamas, as well as those more familiar domestic animals like the rabbits we'll see right after worship and that greeted you on the way in this morning, and the sheep and the goats. They provide their namesake, the heifer, cattle, and they provide the pigs, and shades of Oklahoma, chicks and ducks and geese. Better scurry, huh? I thought about all those kinds of animals, but then I thought about our pets. Their partnership with us, that special relationship between us human animals and these other animal people who become part of our lives. I thought about the gift that pets are to us, as well as their place in the world of nature, which enriches us all. And so if you would turn in your bulletin insert, I would like you to join me in reading responsively the prayer of confession and repentance that is printed in the bulletin. You may remain seated. You will read the bold parts. O God, you have given us human creatures dominion, temporary lordship over your creation, to care in your name for all the creatures of the earth.
Holy God, our relationship with the animal world has been relentless, many times oppressive. There is hardly a species left on earth which is not been subject to our use or misuse of power.
We have become explorers and exploiters of your earth, taking and using other creatures with no thought for you, their creator.